Hey, CFMA, the questions that I will address today are twofold. The first is is the definition of fraud? And the second is what are the two broad classifications of fraud? My name is Peter Harris. I have a background in this area. I hold a number of forensic designations as well as anti-fraud designations, and I have about 24 publications in this area. Fraud is defined in Black's Law Dictionary as any activity that relies on deception in order to achieve a gain. Fraud becomes a crime when it is a knowing misrepresentation of the truth or concealment of material fact to induce another to act to his or her detriment. The Institute of Certified of Internal Auditors defines fraud as any illegal act characterized by deceit, concealment, or violation of trust. These acts are not dependent upon the threat of violence or physical force. Finally, the independent auditing standards define fraud as intentional acts versus error or unintentional acts that result in a material misrepresentation of the financial statements or a misappropriation of assets. So the key to fraud is that it's deceptive, intentional, material, and non-physical. The result of these factors is that fraud oftentimes difficult to prove because the intent is often defended as an error or an unintentional act. Materiality is also difficult to assess because it's not really objectively defined. And finally, the fact that it's not a physical crime is often looked as a more lenient type of crime than others. Now, let's talk about the classifications of fraud. Fraud is classified into two broad areas. The first is asset misappropriation. This is simply theft, stealing from the company. This is usually perpetrated by lower level employees and it accounts for 90% of all fraud cases. However, only 10% of the monetary fraud losses. Some examples of this could be somebody embezzling funds from the company. However, it goes much beyond this. Somebody who pads his expense report, that's asset misappropriation. Somebody who uses a company car for his own benefit, that would also result in asset misappropriation. Related to this is something we call corruption. Corruption is defined as a public official abusing his power in order to obtain a financial benefit. This is usually in the form of a bribe. Misappropriation of public funds results from corruption, and therefore I include this as part of asset misappropriation. Some literature treats this as a separate classification of fraud. The second broad classification is financial statement fraud. This can result from overstating assets, overstating sales, overstating net income, understating expenses, understating liabilities, and also implicitly not disclosing material items. So as an example, if a company has a major lawsuit that may bankrupt it, the fact that this is not disclosed, that's financial statement fraud. The issue with this type of fraud is, unless it's very serious, this is a much more difficult fraud to prove. And again, that goes back to what I talked about before. The CEO will always defend this by saying, look, it was an error, it wasn't intentional. So these are more difficult cases of fraud to prove. They're not objective, and a lot of financial statement fraud goes unpunished because of this. In closing, fraud is very difficult to uncover, and both internal as well as external auditors have struggled in this area with limited success. In many cases, fraud is transactions for many periods of years before it is uncovered. I thank you very much for watching my video.